Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's October the 15th in 2024. It's 7 p.m. Berlin time, and we're here at the Fiedler audio live stream. And of course, I'm not alone here. Hello, Mr. Thomas Fiedler. How are you?
Hello, I'm fine. Thank you.
Cool. We have a short one, and we started this kind of spontaneously today because I've been traveling. I've been at BeatCon in Berlin, and you're basically sitting already on your packed suitcases because you're about to go to Amsterdam to perform, so to say, at the ADE, at the Amsterdam Dance Event, where you will be at the Tobacco Theater, and there happens to be the Dolby Atmos Lounge hosted by Dolby in partnership with Ableton Live, and that is because Dolby and Ableton Live want to show how Dolby Atmos production works and how it works in Ableton Live, and how does it work in Ableton Live, of course, with the Fiedler Audio Dolby Atmos Composer, and with the help of some more tools from the Fiedler Audio Dolby Atmos creation suite, so to say, Space Lab,
hmm
Mastering Console, Gravitas, and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
yeah, before we get more into this, I just wanted to let you know how it was at BeatCon last week. BeatCon is a workshop event basically for hip hop music producers and engineers, and that was taking place for the first time in Berlin. The years before, it happened in Duisburg in the Ruhr area in Germany. And well, it's a very active and enthusiastic place to be because a lot of young people go there, and also some a little bit more seasoned people as well, who are into producing music for the hip hop, the rap, and the urban music genre. And there are a lot of workshops and classes, songwriting, production, mixing, music business, and stuff like that. And so it happened that this year Dolby were there and hosted the Dolby Lounge at the BeatCon event. And two colleagues from us, Sebastian from Steinberg and Roman from Avid, were there as well to show how Dolby Atmos production can work or works with the integrated systems in Cubase and in Pro Tools. And I was there to talk a little bit about how the Fiedler audio tools help to get into Atmos basically with any DAW. And speaking to the many people there, I realized that, well, everybody is working in stereo. There were a lot of producers, bedroom producers, and professional producers. And everybody's working in stereo, of course, for years, and everybody has their concepts. And I realized that there is the biggest question basically is not so much about details in terms of technology and gear that you have. It's more about, okay, how do I get from two speakers in a convenient way, in a organic way, into all the other speakers as well. And that was pretty interesting because I was able to give them an idea about a workflow that basically starts with your stereo mix that you have, and how you can go step by step, track by track, instrument by instrument into the Atmos world. And that was very positively received. And we just thought, Thomas and I, we just chatted about this briefly, thought, okay, that's, our call for thinking about a tutorial like this, to really start from the basics and explain how the first step would be if you're sitting in front of your stereo mix, regardless which DAW you're using, and then take it from there. And we will prepare that, and we'll let you know, hopefully sooner than later, that you can, take then really the road, the path, and the first steps from stereo to Atmos. Yeah, what do you think, Thomas? Is that not technical enough for you? The creator, sound engineer, and being so deep into all these things, Dolby Atmos, that you think that's not so important? No, I'm
Oh,
sure you
no.
see
Yeah.
the point,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
most
I
most
mean,
probably most probably you have made this experience as well, talking to people.
yeah, of course. I have made this experience, and also seeing what is being presented in many places and in the internet and YouTube when it comes to people talking about how to enter the Dolby Atmos world. I always see that they talk about things which don't actually give the producer and the musicians and the artists a practical approach to how to make their first steps. Rather, it discourages them because it seems to be so complicated, while it is not actually. And this is why we are making our third live stream, and still it is called From Stereo to Atmos. So some people might think, yeah, okay, I mean, stereo to Atmos. Once you're on the Atmos world, why do you talk about this all the time? Because what I see is most people are still in the stereo world and are at least with one eye looking into Dolby Atmos. Many because Apple is paying more for Atmos mixes simply because of that, or because they are interested in simply because they're interested in what it might bring to do something in Dolby Atmos. And it is really an exciting new world to discover, but people are a little bit held back because of the apparent complexities of the topic. So what we wanted to do is a mixing workshop which actually walks you through the first steps to get from A to B, from stereo to Atmos. And this is because many people just need this first initial step, and then they can start walking alone because they will find out their own way of mixing things and their own creative workflow. But the first step is how to enter it, to crack the barrier and to actually lose the fear. No?
Yeah, indeed. And I came to this basically because I saw a picture of a ladder, and all these New York houses, the typical things where you have this fire escape ladders at the side of the houses, right? And they end usually at least 2 meters above street level. So when you get there and want to take the first step to go up, you really have a hard time because it's difficult to get there and take the first step. And that's a little bit for me with, getting your head around and your first steps going from stereo to Dolby Atmos. And so if we could add a little, ladder you use for your household tasks to get some stuff from the wardrobe or so with little steps, and we put this under this first big step, then we would have achieved something really, really important, I guess. So look out for that. And as I said, hopefully sooner than later we can get something going with this. The good thing is we have some content we can use for that. And also, if you have some wishes and some input regarding this, please let us know in the comment section to this video. So that was a little bit of BeatCon and the mental learnings we had from that, speaking to a lot of young producers, hip hop producers, working in stereo, but interested in Dolby Atmos. And let's forward to, well, maybe basically to tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, Thursday. In Amsterdam starts the Amsterdam Dance event, and it's a festival of electronic music, and Dolby are there. They will occupy a full theater, the Tobacco Theater in the Amsterdam inner city. You should know it, find it. And there will be a lot of listening sessions with famous artists. And there are also on Thursday, there's a big workshop session with Jay van Wolkom, who is a Ableton live trainer, and Mr. Thomas Fiedler, this side. He will be on site, and both will basically show how to produce and mix Dolby Atmos with Ableton Live and the Fiedler Audio Dolby Atmos Composer. That takes place at 10:30 on Thursday, the 17th. So be there and be early. It is most probably getting pretty packed there. And then on Thursday and Friday in the afternoon, between 3 and 6:30, there will be several smaller, shorter Q&A sessions, so to say, where you're welcome to drop by and also meet Jay and Mr. Thomas Fiedler to ask your questions and discuss things, do's and don'ts, and first steps, bigger steps, if the ladder is reachable or not, and also get some tips on how you can create Dolby Atmos with Ableton Live. So, and the great thing is Thomas has spent, quite some time with Jay during the last weeks on getting the track going in Ableton Live for this session. And yeah, as these things go, when the developer spends time with the users actively, you get a lot of feedback and input and food for thought. So Thomas told me just before we started the live stream that there was one thing that he found out which he finds really, really interesting, and that has to do with the bed for the Dolby Atmos professionals. They know what the bed is. In Fiedler audio world, it's called composite, and objects. And Thomas realized that there are some differences in terms of, let's call it, sound and sonic behavior. You know much better because you had this epiphany, so to say. What happened?
Yeah, what happened? Well, before I start this topic, I just want to add something to the ADE sessions. The 10:30 session, that's the big one on Thursday, will be a presentation of this song which we had, and which Che basically mixed, and we will explain step by. It will be a short step-by-step tutorial on how to start out from the stereo version of the song and get to an Atmos mix. And this mix will also be made available, plus the video of that session also afterwards, after the show, some days later. And the afternoon sessions from 3 to 6 are half-an-hour sessions where we'll also give a short introduction in each session, and then question and answer can come along. And I will stick around the whole show as much as I can, and only leave for basic human necessities. But otherwise, I will be around. So come see me, ask me anything you want regarding Dolby Atmos, music mixing, and stuff. And yeah, coming back to the so-called epiphany, it's not really an epiphany. I was conscious about it before, but it came back to my mind when I checked the mix with Che to finalize the details for the show. And what I realized is that when you switch a connection, a beam connection, for example, which brings your different audio tracks into the composer, when you switch that back and forth between object and mixing onto the composite, these are basically the two modes possible, the sound can drastically change on headphones. Not so much on speakers, because the output format of the, especially if the composite format is equal to the listening setup. So, for example, if you're listening on a 916 speaker setup and you have a 916 composite, so switching back and forth on while listening on speakers will not change very much the sound, because the panning is more or less the same. The same speakers will be used to reproduce the object in space. But on headphones, things are quite different. Why? The reason is that when you pan an object between certain speakers, a group of speakers, so to say, for example, so to say, for example, if you have an object in the front in the center speaker and you move it a little bit up, and it is mixed to the composite, then the center speaker will play a part of it, and the top front speakers will also play a part of it. So there will basically be three speakers involved in playing back this object in space. And what the binauralizer does is it binauralizes these three positions, these three virtual speakers in space, and gives you the 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 mixed version of three binauralized positions in space. But when you switch that over to object mode, the object is no longer mixed to virtual speakers, but is just taken as one single position in space. And this one single position in space is then binauralized. And this sounds drastically different. And this is something which I just want to make you aware of, because that means that that a mix on speakers can sound different, very much different in certain mixing aspects than a mix on headphones, which further emphasizes my statement from a prior live stream that your main monitoring setup should be headphones, because the majority of people will listen to your music, to your Dolby Atmos music on headphones. And knowing that fact about the difference between dynamic object binauralization and composite binauralization um, is it makes it clear that you will do different mixing and panning decisions than if you just having it on speakers, because on speakers they will sound more or less the same. So this is something very important. And this also brings me to another point, and one of the possible reasons why Apple decided to not use the Dolby binaural renderer, but instead of it create their own binaural renderer, which is based on a 714 render of the Dolby Atmos mix. So in that case, they will have a 714 render uh, of the mix, and their binaural algorithm will simply uh, render this virtual speaker setup, and you will have no objects apart from that, which is also the reason why they completely ignore your binaural settings, like the near, mid, far settings you do for objects. But that, on one hand, makes it more compatible with speaker playback, probably more compatible, because if you have a 714 speaker playback on real speakers and the binaural, the Apple Spatial Audio version of Dolby Atmos, it might be more compatible sonically, because you don't have this specific single object rendering in space. But there's also a big caveat. The caveat is that you actually not only use the binaural settings, but you use the specific properties of binaural rendering of single objects in space, which gives you a far greater spatial resolution in your on your headphones. So actually, it's a gain and a loss at the same time. So as you can see, this topic is very interesting when it comes to Dolby Atmos mixing. And well, in the end, I can just repeat myself: mix on headphones primarily, and check that everything is really great there. And check with the binaural renderer. Also check with Apple Spatial to get it there as good as possible. And then in the third step, you can also, or you should also, especially when you're starting out, check on speakers to check how everything translates. But the the principal monitoring equipment and the most important one is and will be headphones, also in the future.
Okay, very interesting. You got me thinking, and I'm still thinking, especially what you said regarding what's happening then in the Apple renderer. But so I have to ask again. You say if you just put one signal as an object, that it then sounds different because it's treated in a different way than if you would just move it around with automation
Yeah.
in the
The,
composite.
imagine the binaural renderer as something which can render continuous positions. It is not fixed to certain positions and then interpolates between them, but you can basically, if you have a mono object, just one mono object in space, and you move it around your head, you get a continuous changing sound while moving around. That means every possible position in space can be rendered individually and will receive an individual sound based on the position in space. But when you mix it to a pre-positioned virtual speaker setup, then you have basically, using the example which I gave before, like in the center, but a little bit with some elevation, you will have basically three virtual speakers which are fixed in space, playing at the same time and being virtualized. You have in principle you, you will have basically three virtual objects. It is like the same thing as three objects in space which are binauralized instead of one. And this will give you a different sonic behavior. This will sound different. It will not
I
sound worse, it will just sound different.
I did get that part.
Hmm.
But then the interesting part for me is always, in the end, what happens when I play it back. And you said that. So what's the advantage then? Again, because I did get it completely, to be honest. So if the Apple renderer, for example, ignores entirely the binaural settings,
Yeah.
so what happens then to this object? It will be then glued into the
Yeah.
speaker setup, and there would not be any advantage, or did I miss something
Well,
to that?
you have, yeah, of course. No, you didn't miss. You actually get to one important point, and this is that changing changing incoming connections or objects to be rendered as separate dynamic objects, separate from the composite, on Apple is less effective. Doesn't make less makes less sense because first, as you say, uh, the binaural settings are completely ignored due to the fact that they are not actually using the binaural renderer of Dolby, but their basis is that they use their own binauralizer and using just a 714 fold down. And so yes, effectively everything, every position of the objects will be rendered to a 714 speaker setup, and this will then be binauralized. So and so that the effect which I was talking about is actually only happening on the Dolby Atmos or the Dolby's own binauralizer. So you will hear it on basically on Amazon and on Tidal, but you most probably won't notice it on Apple Music, on Apple Spatial Audio. This makes it thing even more interesting.
Excuse me. Yeah, and that's a pity,
Yeah,
of course. But that's yeah, we know about this pity for a long time,
yeah,
and we'll see if there will be some development in a more yeah precise direction.
yeah,
That what you're actually doing in binaural mode, that it definitely translate as you hear it to what's coming out of the streamers then as well. And yeah, we just have to keep on focusing on these things, especially towards the the apples of this world,
yeah.
that there might be some progress. Um,
Yeah, I mean, hopefully there will be some progress because in that regard, there's a big sonic difference, or let's say a significant sonic difference between object rendering on the Dolby renderer and the Apple spatial renderer due to their different concepts. They have radically different concepts in the way they do that. And I mean, it is already a compromise. If you have to compromise for the format in your mix, this is already bad. I mean, that means you have to basically mix for two different binaural algorithms, and this already means that you have to make decisions which you maybe don't wouldn't like to do because you have a very specific artistic concept in your sonic mind, so to say, which you want to bring to life, bring to reality, but making it perfect on one renderer might make it not so perfect on the other, and vice versa. So yeah, hopefully they figure this out and they actually s- start thinking that headphones are most important for Dolby Atmos, because they really have to start thinking about that point, since until now the majority of listeners is on headphones, but the majority of mixing engineers are doing it on mainly on speakers. So it is still let's say a tricky situation which Dolby needs to solve sooner or later.
so this is an interesting subject because yeah, speaking of the mechanics of what happens to your delivery format that you know you put into an ADM, and then it goes to the streamers and they do their thing. Apple does what you just described, and Tidal and Amazon do exactly what. I remember it's not so long ago, Michael G. Wagner was trying to explain a little bit the subject. So forgive me, in layman's terms, which is me, the layman, the binaural mix that I do and I listen to and I find exciting and amazing, is that then actually the one that's used for the Amazon and the Tidal release, or is there something going on before the ADM is turned into what basically Tidal and Amazon are streaming to the headphones?
Well, currently it's like this, that the ADM file is, which is also far from being perfect, is converted to an MP4 file, uh,
Hmm.
a rather old standard from Dolby. Their codec basically renders the whole mix into a 5.1 down mix with additional metadata, which then helps the playback renderer to recreate height information and spreading out all the signals, and which also contains the sufficient information to give some idea, or to get some idea of what were the mixing decisions in regards to the different binaural modes which have been set by the mixer. The result is that the MP4 rebinauralization, so to speak, is much closer to what the mixer had in mind than what Apple makes of that. Um, um,
But is it? But
maybe,
it's
yeah.
but it's not exactly
No, no, it's not exactly because
what
to
you're
make it
listening
to
to.
make it exactly, you would need to transmit the ADM file one, which is impossible because of speed, because ADM files can be huge. And the second thing is you could basically create the binaural render. Technically, it would be possible to just upon delivering the ADM file to the distributor like Apple Music and whatnot and Amazon, they could basically create this exactly the same binaural downmix or render of your ADM file and deliver it to the client in case he doesn't have a head tracker. That would be the absolutely ideal situation. Then
Oh,
the listener would have the perfect the perfect binaural experience as intended by the mixing engineer. Why they didn't do it until now, I don't know. Maybe because they think that when you turn on head tracking and the sound starts to change significantly, that they think then people might think that something is wrong.
hmm.
So this is also something they need to work out. Um, Maybe they have to invent one format which is requested by the playback device when you have headphones, and this format is optimized for headphone playback, and another format for speaker playback. I don't know. There are tons of different approaches which could be had, and well, hopefully Dolby will make their algorithm better, so to translate also better to any kind of speaker layout. Because as Michael G. Wagner explained, that due to the compression, basically the compression and the algorithm, um, it's not played back in exactly the same way as you hear it in the studio. But nonetheless, you should always focus on making your ADM perfect, not mixing for the algorithm, you're mixing for the ADM. Nah? Because these this is the point. There's a delivery format, which is the ADM file, and there is the transmission format, which is then transmitted from the streamer to the listener, and this is a different format than your ADM. That means this transmission format will evolve over time, even if the ADMs do not evolve, but the transmission format will evolve and will hopefully get better, so that on a later date, your very same ADM file will be retranscoded to a new transmission format, which will sound much closer to the original ADM file. So always concentrate on making your mix perfect on your end, and let the transmission algorithm evolve.
And also, that's me thinking again with a little bit of pirate attitude. So if you want to make sure that the world listens also to your binaural mix, the untouched, you can make this available to your audience
Yeah,
anyways, in parallel or on top of what you're sending to the streamers. I don't know, maybe as an incentive only via your website, or what some people have done. You can also send this binaural file because it's just a stereo wave file in the end.
yeah,
You can send this also to the streamers and release it as a special labeled thing for the audience, and then they have the choice if it's an album what they listen to, and add maybe the information that this is not to be enjoyed with head tracking and stuff like that. Making this point about the head tracking again, but let's not get into this because that's a very big discussion usually that follows that.
yeah,
And yeah, let's make see let's make everybody capable of doing amazing Atmos mixes out of their musical ideas, and with an increase in this, there will be also more pressure and feedback towards the industry, so that all these technologies can evolve a little bit quicker, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah, and yeah, it's going to be interesting. I don't know. There was just AES in,
New York.
I think it was New York.
Hmm.
Have you heard anything in terms of Dolby Atmos? Was there anything, papers released, panels, discussions,
I
looks
didn't
into
hear
the future or so?
I didn't hear of anything groundbreaking.
Yeah, me
So
too.
no,
Me
nothing,
neither. I mean,
nothing. Yeah, though there was nothing which I would say, wow, this is something this will change the game. I mean, the Dolby Atmos itself has the capacity to beat stereo, but that will only happen if Dolby actually manages to bring forward the headphone topic, and not only speak about it, but if there's also some education in that regard. So, what are the caveats which you need to avoid when mixing on headphones, so that your mix will sound great on headphones, obviously, but also on other reproduction systems. So, because we all want a mix which translates well, or at best possible everywhere, but really, the focus needs to be on headphones. I cannot repeat it more enough, because even if you look into other playback systems, no, most often what I hear from other people when it comes to this topic is, yeah, there are cars, there are smart speakers, and so forth. But if you look at it, um, the development, or the development which is expected to happen in these realms, like smart speakers and cars, automobile sound, both are actually heading towards binaural reproduction. Cars, because they know that the car acoustic is car acoustics are basically shit. There are so many hard reflecting
dude.
places. Ooh, what can I say? I'm saying the truth. Um, the only way to get around the car acoustic problems is to bring the reproduction system close to the listener, meaning close to the ears. That way, you will have best possible sound reproduction in a car, even individualized for every listener. So, and if everyone listens to the same, you can even punch in the bass speaker below the seat to get some pumping. Um, and smart speakers, well, uh, smart speakers have the capability to also do binaural. Now you might ask, hey, how is it possible that a smart speaker can do binaural? Well, this is already happening in parts, partially. For example, if you're sitting in front of a modern laptop, for example, an Apple one, there, if I'm not mistaken, there are applications which can use the stereo speakers of your laptop in such a way that there is some kind of phase cancellation between both ears, so that the left channel only reaches your left ear, and the right channel basically, or mostly, only reaches your right ear. That way you have a similar channel separation like you would have on headphones, and therefore can use the binaural signal to actually get a spatial feeling. And also, if smart speakers will be smart enough in the future to actually be able to play back sound for several people in the room, not only for one, but for several people, more they have to turn to this approach, because otherwise, if you don't have a personalized listening experience for each person which is with you in the room, but in a separate position, um, you will always have the same problems, that maybe for one it's ideal, but for the rest not. And it is the same if you're in the studio, there is the so-called sweet spot. In the sweet spot, everything sounds nice, but if you move to the side, you know what happens.
Yeah, indeed. And we had this thing, um, what happens when, when you're at these Dolby Atmos workshops, like I've been to at BeatCon, they had this amazing Genelec system there with this awesome 3 times 18-inch bass speaker subwoofer. Unfortunately, the room was not really treated well, but at an event like this, you can't expect that,
Yeah,
so no problem. But yeah, then you have, I don't know, they had 8 seats in a row next to each other. So when you're not sitting in the center, you really had a hard time to hear the other speaker there when you were a little bit away. And some of the experience was then not really possible there. And that's, excuse me, that's the downside when you're having these discrete systems. It's not for, and that's another interesting aspect, but I also don't want to get into this deeper, but this communal aspect of listening to music, experiencing music, it's a different experience when you're listening to music with more people than if you're listening to music on your own, alone. And when this listening to music with more people is not really possible because everybody's hearing something different,
yeah,
then this communal aspect gets a little bit diminished. So that's a philosophical thing to be discussed somewhere else, maybe, but it has to be taken into consideration. And
yeah.
what's really working well, where it's defined, and as you said, we always end with the headphone subject there because that's defined and everybody who's listening, like 7 people in the same room, each one with these, they would at least hear everything that's supposed to be in the mix.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll
I mean,
see.
yeah. I mean, spatial audio and lots of people listening in the same thing, and also being still enabled to communicate with each other. This is still a big challenge for any kind of 3D audio, any kind of spatial audio. I mean, it's even a challenge for stereo. But for stereo, people didn't care so much. They just put the speaker somewhere and then turn on the volume, and they didn't care much about the spatial aspect or the directional aspect of music. They just wanted to fill the room somehow. But when you talk about spatial audio, you actually think about, well, I mixed it in a way that things come from there, from up, and you want it somehow reproduced in a more uh, in a way which is closer to your actual mixing intention, and this is like opening up a whole new thought process, so to say, how to make it possible to get spatial audio to many people. It's a it's actually a long time problem, which was first well encountered in mass in the cinema, because in cinema you also have the problem. You have a very good position in the cinema where everything is very played back in a very nice way, but then you have the border positions where, well, you have the same problem as what Tom now you described, uh, in terms of the studio experience when you have certain amount of people in the studio. So this is still a big topic. There have been certain partially very wild technological approaches, which are sometimes so how you say it, impractical, very interesting but impractical, like wave field synthesis, um, uh, that they will never become a mass thing. But if the I think the only way to really solve it is to get individualized sound experience in such a non intrusive way to the people. I mean, this is also some intrusion to people here. You can have a very nice individual sonic experience, but if you want to communicate with people like you do without listening to music, then well, some invention has still to happen.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
I remember one word or a sentence a phrase that Eric Horstman was saying. So hopefully in 50 years there won't be headphones anymore because sound would happen for the human brain in a different way. We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, let's leave this philosophical part of mixing and producing for Dolby Atmos in Dolby Atmos and go back to, the ADE the day after tomorrow. So I don't want to keep you too long from packing your stuff and maybe checking the latest things on the mixes Jay provided and you worked with him. I'm pretty curious on what the feedback will be from ADE, which interesting artist will maybe show up because some from the most possible, the typical ADE crowd, Martin Garrix and Armin van Buuren, I heard they will look into Atmos and plan to do more in Dolby Atmos.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting for that electronic music part of getting into Dolby Atmos and how the results will be. So I wish you an amazing time, a lot
Thank
of
you.
interesting users and producers, and also great experiences with some great artists who might have a lot of interesting questions for you
Yeah.
and stuff we can then bring to you guys out there in the next live stream when
Sure.
Thomas shares his experiences from ADE.
Yeah.
So, if you don't have anything to add, I would say we can wrap it up.
There's one question. Will there be a live stream from ADE? I don't think so. But we will record everything and make it available to you. So the whole session, if everything goes right, the whole session, you will be able to watch it afterwards. And we will also make the mix available to you so that you can download it and play around with it on Ableton Live and follow along with the video.
Cool. So, we can then also, well, I'm sure you will address this during the session, how then also the mastering can happen
Yeah,
to that
I will,
track.
I
And
will, I will, I will mention the mastering console as well. So once the mix is ready, then you can load it into the mastering console and give it a final touch before actual delivery.
very cool. And then, if we have the track, we can use it also to show more in regards of mastering and stuff like that in tutorials. Wonderful. So, you guys, thanks for watching. Thomas, thanks for being with us and sharing the latest epiphanies, if we still can call it like that, from your interaction with Jay. And I wish you an amazing time and safe travels. Are you flying or are you taking the train?
Flying.
Okay. I wanted to take the train yesterday from Berlin to Hamburg, and that was a full failure. But I can tell you, check out if Flixtrain is going, because that was a safe escape. So
Okay.
thanks to Flixtrain. Saved my day.
Okay.
All right. Take care, everybody. If you have any questions, reach out to us. And otherwise, we will see you all during the next live stream. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.